All right. So now you have done your training and your orientation program, and we are further advanced down the road in this process in the life cycle of HR. So we've identified the job duties or what jobs you would need in an establishment, what the duties of each of those job positions are going to be. Then with the job description component, identified further what qualifications are going to be needed to perform those job duties. Then you went through a selection process of how you're going to hire these people and get them in the door and make your determination on who's going to be the best qualified and that you think is going to be a good fit for the position in your company. Then we onboarded them and we trained them. Now we're further down in the process where we need to evaluate them. So now you need to create a process for these same two job positions that you've been working with this whole time. Now create an evaluation process. You've probably had experience with this in your other jobs with like annual reviews or quarterly reviews or maybe a weekly check-in, although that'd be really frequent, but maybe like a monthly check-in with a supervisor to just kind of let you know how you're doing and gives you an opportunity to weigh in on how you think you're doing and maybe any assistance or clarification that you might need from your supervisors. So we need to create that process. What is that? Do you have a quick like 10-minute check-in with a supervisor every month to just say, hey, this is how you're doing? Or is it an annual review, which is typical for a lot of companies, where put it in the calendar every year that you're going to sit down with an employee and go through the evaluation of how that employee's performance has been with the company. If it's a new hire, which is where we're kind of at right now after having just gone through the selection process and the training process, now we're in that evaluation process early on in the employee's tenure with you. Uh, is it that there's going to be like a probation period of time, which is standard? So let's say after 90 days, you evaluate how the employee is doing and you give feedback to the employee on how you think that person's doing, and they give an opportunity to give you feedback as well. And these are all things from your friendly lawyer you need to keep documented. But anyway, so let's say after 90 days, the first 90 days, you do an evaluation, and then you say, we're going to do an evaluation every year, and that's how we're going to go through this. So that would be number one, setting the timing on how often and the frequency by which you're going to do this. But the other thing that you really need to identify in this evaluation process is how you're evaluating them. Is there a metric? Are there competencies that have to be check marked? Is there um, a scale? Do you have, on a scale of 1 to 5, they're great with customers? On a scale of 1 to 5, their cooking skills are on point, or they're on time? That's another thing. Is the employee on time all the time or more often than not? And how are you going to rate that for that employee? And the reason why you need to have this set out is because every employee has to be evaluated the same for the same job function. So obviously your evaluation process for a front of house manager versus say a dishwasher or a prep cook or a line cook is going to be probably pretty different. I mean, there are going to be some things that cross over, like, is the employee on time? Well, of course, that's going to be pretty consistent across all positions in the company. But, there are going to be some job duty specific things that you're not going to want to have just one blanket evaluation form that gets filled out for every employee, because you're going to have some employees that are more front facing and interacting with customers, and other employees might not be. So instead of putting not applicable on things cross reference, you should just have an evaluation for each job description or, job that you have in your establishment. So, and then you could even have it broken up by department. So it might even be like back of house and front of house maybe has, if they each have their own evaluation process, and then some of the other ones within it can be a little more nuanced. But anyway, you need to have that. How are you actually evaluating these employees? The PowerPoints that I posted actually give you some examples that I think are helpful in walking through that process and making sure that you, again, aren't going to be running afoul of any equal employment opportunity laws. It's a really big deal that everybody needs to be evaluated fairly. The other thing to take into consideration too is who is going to be conducting the evaluation. Is it going to be peer evaluation, which that could get you into some pretty sticky territory, but it's an option. It's one of the ways that you can do it. Is it a manager? Is it going to be a couple of managers that do the evaluation? Is it you? Is it ownership? Is it just a direct supervisor? How are they being evaluated? Maybe some of your front of house, are you taking into consideration customer evaluations? So those are all different things that you need to identify. The point is, though, is that you need to have some kind of system in place. You need to have some system in place so that you are consistent across the board with everything in every employee in that particular job function, and that all employees have some form of evaluation that you're following, and that it's just not off the cuff and based on possible biases. You don't want any biases. You need to have something set. So we'll cover office hours and questions if you have any. But anyway, this is the next phase.